Hi, people. I'm Dax.
And I'm Em,
And this is Full His House.
your Full House fancast.
And today we are covering Season 1, Episode 14, Half a Love Story. Jesse uses baby Michelle to get a date with one of Danny's co-workers. Initial thoughts on the episode?
This was an interesting one. When it first initially started, I feel like me and you could probably both pick out exactly what this one was leading to. The moment I saw Robin, Danny's friend, I was like, oh, I know where this is going. And then we got a little further in, and I was on track. So this episode, at least at the beginning, from where we were starting, it had promise. But we'll go into kind of how I feel about its entirety as we get through it.
You know, throughout life, watching this episode, I never really liked it too much. I feel like there's just a lot of judging in this episode. I feel like there's a lot of weirdness even in the arrangements that Jesse has with women. And I will say, though, Danny is kind of a vibe in this episode. Like, he's just
Isn't Danny always a vibe?
Danny is always a vibe. Like, he weirdly is just so
right.
Like his own thing. He's so funny, so charmingly funny, but somehow like bulletproof, because you can do nothing but make fun of him, but then you can't, make fun of him because he's just so good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where even as you make fun of him, you feel like you're just kind of hyping him up a little bit. He's got like a boyish charm to him.
Yeah, there's just something about how he's definitely the relief in this episode.
Yes.
So we start at the station with Danny, and I think this is the first time we're seeing the set of the station with Danny. And
is it? Yeah, you know what? You're right, because I think the only other time we really saw him working was when we had that boxing episode.
We are introduced to a woman named Robin who came in for an interview. Danny asks if she makes more money than her, and it's kind of a running gag. How do we feel about that whole conversation, or him like asking? I mean, I'm of the opinion that it's cool to ask like your homies how much they're making, especially if they're in the same industry, because I think having those conversations is a great way to get fair pay. But something about this dynamic bumped me and how he was doing it, or whatever, like, or is it just me?
Okay, so like, no, I do get what you're saying. This was kind of the first time I think we've seen Danny push anything realistically. Danny's always kind of been the one to be like, maybe ask once, maybe twice, maybe hint at it or joke at it, and then kind of let you do your own thing or decide to answer or not, type of thing. I think this is just the first time we've ever seen Danny push for something. Which could have been why it felt just so weird or even just a little off, was just because we've never seen Danny in that demeanor, in a sense, like, not necessarily forcefully asking, but like persistently asking for what feels like kind of a personal question. But again, it doesn't help that they didn't build any chemistry between Robin and Danny before doing this. We just kind of got an introduction, and then all of a sudden he was asking her how much money she was making. So it's like we got the context as to the relationship after that, for the most part, which I think added to it feeling a bit uncomfortable. I don't think the idea of asking is weird. I think the idea of asking if she's making more money than him is a little weird, because even in the 80s, we knew that men were making more money than we were. So like that one, I was kind of like, well, obviously not, at least in my head. When he said, I was like, well, obviously not. Even then, women were making way less. But that could be different as like a newscaster. Maybe it's because she's like pretty to look at or something. I have no idea. But I feel like the biggest reason is just because, one, we've never seen Danny really persistently push like that. And two, the writers failed to create any chemistry between the characters before we started asking personal questions.
Yeah, totally agree. It's interesting too, because in the next scene is then revealed that this is his old pal Robin. So he invites his old pal Robin to stay with them at the Tanner Hilton, which is very nice of him, low-key. Okay, like doesn't want her to stay in a hotel while she's auditioning and interviewing, especially if they do go back. Like that's nice of him, in his big house.
I get it, but I feel like in the scene later when she actually gets there, we learn another piece of information that makes it seem like, okay, you guys aren't really old friends. Y'all knew each other for maybe a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and then you fell out and never talked again.
Yeah, you're gonna have to remind me when we get there.
Got you.
uh, Jesse walks in with Michelle and uses the baby to, quote, beam her in. Robin falls for this, and Jesse says that Michelle is better than a Ferrari. I just hate that. I'm sorry. The whole like narrative girls don't like boys, girls like cars and money bull is just I hate it. It's whatever. Fine.
Look,
Like
I on one hand, I understand what you're saying. On the other hand, I also understand what he's saying because I mean, it stereotypes are around for a reason, not necessarily because it fits everybody, but mostly because it does fit at least a group of people out there, which is why it's even a thing, right? So it's like it's it's one of those things where it's I'm not a big fan of using children to lure women in. I think it would like honestly in most cases it would have the opposite effect now, mainly because we have
correct.
that yes, we have that idea of like baby mama, baby daddy. We don't want that kind of drama type of thing. So it's like nowadays it would have an opposite effect, which is also probably why it feels a little bit weird to be using it. But that stereotype is there because it does fit a small, at least a small group of people. So I understand what he's saying, and for the most part, if we look at Jesse's track record, it kind of fits because the women he goes for is looking for that kind of status, which is why he's always putting forth this kind of energy.
Yeah. They introduce themselves to each other, and Jesse blows on the baby's belly to make Robin laugh and invites her to do the same.
So weird. I'm just gonna say it's so weird. Like I get it if you were like an aunt, an auntie, like someone in the family, I get it. But just to go up to a random woman because you want to date and be like, yo, you want to blow on my toddler's belly is so weird to me.
Okay, so I have a couple questions with this because technically it would be less weird if it was like she and Danny, or if she at this point is she unaware of the fact that that is her old pal's
Yes,
daughter. Right,
she
she is
is.
unaware. it's
She is
it's
because she's
pretty
unaware of who Jesse
who
is to
Jesse
him.
is.
Exactly.
Exactly. So why why is Michelle even there in the first place?
I guess from what I can tell, it seems like Jesse is either picking her up from Danny's job or dropping her off. Because
Yeah,
later on he's dropping her off. Right now, I
right.
think, or right now he's dropping her off. Later on, I know he picks her up at like towards the end of the episode. But I think right now he's dropping her off, which feels a little weird because then we just kind of toss her into later. We toss her into Danny's lap when he's about to just start airing, and that feels weird. It
Right.
doesn't feel like that setup makes much sense. It feels like they were really searching for a way to put these two characters in the same room, and they didn't know how to do it before they got to the house.
Absolutely. And it's even weirder that Jesse says that Michelle thinks that Robin and the three of them should get together for dinner or something. And Robin says that she can't tonight because she's getting settled in, but she can tomorrow. But Michelle has tickets to the opera tomorrow. So it's just going to be Robin and Jesse, which I guess is smooth. And Robin's just here for all of this. She's like, oh, this guy's cute. He's asking me out. He has a baby. She's just like really falling into everything. Jesse gives the baby to Danny right before they go back up on air. And Danny and Michelle do a little bit together, a little 1.5 point bit. I actually think it's super cute. I love seeing the connection between Danny and Michelle, or Bob and the twins, or I just love seeing them together. So it was actually really cute.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. I thought it was probably the sweetest part of this whole thing. I think it was only born because they were trying to figure out what to do with Michelle when after using her for this bit for Jesse and Robin to kind of find each other in a sense. Um, I, but I like how they did it. At least, at very least, I the most chemistry we saw on screen this entire time was between Danny and Michelle, and I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty cute. And I do feel like anybody saw that on actual TV, everybody would absolutely love it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a nice little moment, a nice little palate cleanser to get into the next scene. um, so
Oh
we're back at the
gosh.
house, and Robin says to DJ that she remembers when DJ was like 5 years old or a baby or something. And I just want to say very quickly, I remember that anytime people said that to me when I was growing up, it was just weird. Like, okay, well, I don't remember you. All right. Like, geez.
I don't think it was weird, but I do kind of understand that it was like a little bit awkward, right? Like you know that you're like 11 years old and she's like, "Oh, I knew you when you were that big." And she points at Stephanie who's about 5 years old. And you're just like, "Yeah, I don't really remember you, but you try to play along anyways cuz they're just hopeful that you remember them." That is awkward. What I loved was that DJ did exactly what most of us did as kids. It's like, yeah, you look exactly how you looked then. Like I don't remember you, but I'm trying really hard to not be mean about it. I want to be nice because you seem really nice. You seem really friendly, like you're my dad's friend. I want to remember, but I was 5. I don't remember. I can't. My brain chooses what it wants to hold on to and what it doesn't.
Stephanie asks, I'm 5 years old. Am I going to forget all of this? And DJ says, probably. And Stephanie says, I should be taking notes. Just a little bit of a quick existential crisis right there for Stephanie. In the kitchen, Joey is trying to pass takeout as his own, and Stephanie catches him, gives him a nice little head shake and a Joey, Joey, Joey. And Joey says that he's tired of getting a hard time for not being the world's best cook. And Stephanie says, that's okay. I'm not the world's greatest anything. And Joey says that that's not true. She is the world's greatest Stephanie. And I just thought that was so like low key powerful. Like I just like slipped in some like really cool stuff out of freaking nowhere. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh shoot. No, I thought that was really cute. I think this is the first time we've seen Joey and Stephanie kind of team up for really anything. So I thought that was kind of fun. I thought it was interesting that Joey decided that because people think he can't cook, that he would attempt to cook a different culture's meal and pass it off as his own. But semantics.
But Stephanie does agree to keep the secret with him, and agrees to help summon the family for dinner. And then all of a sudden, no knock, no doorbell, nothing. Jill opens the door and I guess this is going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing in Full House, and I get that. And especially in Fuller House, there's the whole "it's always open" thing, but it's just jarring. She walks into the house, um, says hello to Joey, and Joey just straight up asks her, Jill, are you dating Jesse again? Like basically just like, what are you doing here? Like I thought you were done with like you guys are still doing this. And Jill says that they have an arrangement where if neither one of them have a date, then they kind of have a date with each other. I really want to know the logistics of how this arrangement works. Are you then, what is it, the night before saying, "Hey, did you meet anybody? No. Did you? No. Okay, cool. We're going to hang out." Or is it just like, "Well, I didn't hear anything from him," or "I don't have a date." Like how do you, and how would they have done that? Well, I mean, obviously they had phones, but still, like I don't know.
No, that's a fantastic question because she said that they have a thing where if neither of them have a date, then they just go on a date with each other. But didn't he meet Robin like early that morning? So
Oh, you know what? This makes sense though, because Robin said that she wasn't available that night. She said that she was available the next night. So he probably figured keep the date with Jill, have the date with other chick tomorrow.
that makes sense considering at that point he didn't realize she was staying at their place. He didn't even realize that Robin was like a I guess an old friend of Danny's. I'm saying that with air quotes, despite the fact that you can't see them because it doesn't. There's no chemistry between these two. It's just them having conversation that then tells us that they're old friends. But it's not actual chemistry that reads as old friends. It's literally them saying, "Oh, hey, old pal."
Robin is at the house when Jesse arrives. He walks up to her, shakes her hand. Danny tries to kind of introduce them, but Jesse just does the whole going out tomorrow thing. She says absolutely. And DJ exclaims, boy, does he work fast. Because, I mean, nobody knows that these two have met.
Exactly. To them, it just kind of looks like he walked in, they saw each other, he was so hot and she was so hot, they agreed to a date on the spot.
Which is like all Jesse needs to like fall in love, because we not too long ago had that crazy episode with Karina Spicer, who was the one.
Right.
So whatever, Jesse, it's cool. We love you.
He's going through his growing phase. We're aware of that. He's not going to have a lot of depth right now, but we see him slowly gaining it. It's just not with the women that he dates. It's with the women that he lives with.
Yeah, and he has a great moment in this episode, which we'll get to. Danny then asks if it's okay that Robin stay in Jesse's room, and Jesse is ecstatic, but then that means that he will be sharing a room with Joey. And Joey makes an entrance to herd everyone to the kitchen for the dinner that he prepared, um, put together, I will say.
Plated.
And while the family is entering the kitchen, Jill comes down from upstairs. So she's just been roaming the house looking for Jesse. We did see her go upstairs from the kitchen. Yes, from the kitchen. So it does make sense that she would be coming down to the living room, because she probably went up, saw that Jesse wasn't there, is coming down, sees him there, and Jesse immediately catches on like what's happening. Like his senses start tingling, and he immediately tries to like shoot her out of the house. But quickly, how do we feel about Jill just roaming around the house like everything's cool? I guess she's been there a few times.
Well, it seems like it seems like everybody knows her. She's familiar with the house. She's familiar with everybody who lives there. So I mean, it especially since they seem to have this thing where if they don't have a date, they date each other, which means I'm guessing everybody there is aware of her or knows her. I don't really think it's too weird, because I'm guessing she's probably done it a couple times already. It's kind of like, when your brother or sister invites a best friend over. After they've been over once, you just, don't start looking for them. You just know they're in the house somewhere.
Jesse tries to shoo her out of the house, and Joey says that he has prepared a wonderful Chinese dinner. Apparently, it's something that Jill really loves, and, she stays, which I think was nice. I do think it was nice of Joey to invite her to stay. Like,
no,
I don't think he was doing...
I think Joey is always.
Oh, you think Joey know what he was doing in this moment?
100%. 100%. Did you see his face at the dinner table? He made sure that there was that spot between both of them that was free. Everybody else sat in different spots. Joey knew exactly what he was doing, but I love Joey for this, because Joey walks around like he's unaware, but he is completely aware of what he's doing. There's a reason why that one seat between both girls was completely open. And while everybody else was like, I'm good, I have nothing to say, Joey didn't even say a word. He just smiled at him and watched.
The other amazing thing about it, he really did. And he would have had to work so quickly, because I feel like as soon as he saw Robin, or if he was made aware that Robin, I'm sorry, is that her name? Yes, Robin was going to be around, he either knew that A, Jesse would go after her, or B, has gone after her.
No, you want to know what I think it is?
Please.
So we had that moment where the new girl, I don't remember her name, the other girl Jill, where Jill comes in, she sees Joey, right? Then she goes upstairs. Meanwhile, Robin makes her way into the kitchen. That's when she meets Joey.
Oh, so like after Jill goes upstairs,
Robin and the girls and Danny make their way into the kitchen. That's where Joey then meets Robin, and then immediately goes out to see, oh, you have a date with so-and-so. Well, since you're going after two girls, they just said that you have a date with so-and-so, or maybe even just like you said, where he saw Robin and knew that was his type. He just wanted to see what would happen. But 100%, 100%, I think that, yes, 100%. He may not have known the exact circumstances between Robin and Jesse, but he knew that it would cause a little bit of drama, and he was here for it. So he set it up.
We love Joey.
100%.
We absolutely love Joey.
I stand Joey because he is so sneaky. And I feel like even the audience doesn't really see it. They just kind of give into that, oh, he's just kind of a dunce sometimes. No, Joey is very smart. He chooses to be a dunce so you look the other direction. It's a part of his humor, and it's hilarious.
And you know what? You're right, because he does have a moment where, like you said, that that seat was open, and he says, "Have a seat, roomie."
Now, mind you, there are two separate seats open. One that doesn't put him between both girls, but Joey immediately takes that and then tells him to take a seat between both girls. He knew what he was doing. His face during dinner, while everybody else chose to not speak, it's almost like Joey came up with a plan in that moment and let everybody in on it. If he didn't let everybody in on it, it was perfectly orchestrated because he got the exact drama he was looking for.
The other thing too is this is exactly what Jesse gets for always flaunting his women in front of Joey. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. All right, it will come back. It will come back. You know what? Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Here
yes.
for this.
Yeah.
Here for this. Loving this episode a little bit more. So Jesse introduces the girls to each other, but Robin announces that they have already met and that Jill was just saying how they had a date tonight. And Jill says, "Can you believe he got off this cheap? But he's so cute." And I will also say she's got so much personality, this actress, this role. Like she's really like going at, like, we know who Jill is. She does make a lasting impact, and Robin as well, but I do think that Jill, particularly for whatever reason, maybe it's the outfit, maybe it's just how, you know, she's one of Jesse's girls. But
they gave her a lot of personality for someone who has such a small part. It's either they gave her a lot of personality or that actress knew exactly how to add personality to this character to make her feel more
I'm gonna
human.
go with the latter, because if you look at the actual words of what she's saying, "Yum, he's so cute," but she's putting the emphasis on it. She's putting the style on it. You know, she's doing
the
a
little
lot.
baby voice. He's so cute.
Yeah, just like that, you know, and she could have played it in like a fangirly way. You know, she could have done it in like a "I have no personality" type of way, but. You know, she
dug a little deep and she gave that character a little bit of depth, and I can definitely appreciate that. I
really appreciate it because it also doesn't make it seem like, oh, because she's one of Jesse's girls, she's any less of a woman, or just like, or any of these reductive ideals that can come with what like a fast girl is or an easy girl or anything like that. Like, no, this is just the type of, she's just open about the relationship she has with Jesse, and the family knows her. Like I like that they kind of put her in a little bit more of a respectable light.
You know what? The one thing I will say is, despite how I feel about Jesse sometimes and the way that he chooses to go about certain things, Jesse doesn't date like dumb bimbos. He dates women who have some kind of status, some kind of success, some kind of thought process. They have goals, which is, for the most part, what it seems like the reason why things don't usually work out for him, especially him and that other girl, Roxanne. Is just that they had goals that took them in separate directions. Even when he brought home that one girl he was making out with on the bike, she didn't seem dumb. She just seemed like she was ready to get laid. You get me? Like there was an agreement there, in a sense that this is what we were going to do. We would have fun, and then I probably won't see you again, and that's fine. But he doesn't. Anybody that we've seen Jesse truly go after has never been like some kind of dumb bimbo, which I can appreciate.
So everyone is saying that the food is great, and Joey says, "All right, so are we done? Are we done giving me ish for all of this?" Well, he doesn't say quite that, but Danny does mention that it tastes like their local Chinese restaurant, like the lo mein at a restaurant that he's familiar with. And Steph goes to bat and is just like, "Yeah, but it's much better," which I loved her for. But this is exactly why you would think that this would fail. Like there's something about outside food that you just know nobody cooked that at home. Like there's a clear difference. This would never work, Chinese food or not.
I agree. Look, I think mainly because it's the Chinese food, it wouldn't work. If you did burgers and fries or even wings or something, like there's a way to get away with it at least. You just have to have the right dishes out and dirty, right? Make sure the house is smelling a little bit like it, because realistically, that's the biggest tell. If I can't smell the food from the next room, you didn't cook it. It just arrived.
Jill asks what movie she and Jesse will see later. Jesse tries to change the subject by asking the girls how school was, but he gets a double whammy of fine. He says normally you can't shut him up, and then asks Danny how his day at work was, and he also says fine. Everybody is right here for this drama. They are like, oh no, this is
This is
This is,
also where we pan over to Jess or to Joey, who just kind of smiles at him.
oh, he's loving this. And
Exactly.
Jill just says that she loves Chinese and that she and Jesse met at a Chinese restaurant, and says that it was when Jesse was picking up an order and he had the baby Michelle. And she said that there's something about a man with a baby that's so sexy and hard to resist. And Robin makes a joke that says, it's becoming easier. And then Danny chimes in and says, you're using my baby to meet women.
At least someone understood that there was something kind of weird about that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I love that they gave Danny the opportunity to comment on it. Like, bro, like, ew, dude.
Right. Why?
Joey then says, Michelle, you're coming with me to the market tomorrow, which is funny. It's funny when Joey says it, but you know.
Mainly because we don't really think he's going to actually do it.
Because you know that he's going to be harmless about it. He's just going to wave at
Very
chicks.
harmless. that the fact that he doesn't seem to be as, I guess, smooth with his words. He really is just a massive goofball. Smooth is not something he can pull off.
And there are women who love their goofballs. Freaking Jessica and Roger. That's what brought 100%. Them together.
Yeah. The only thing is, if you're a goofball, you're not going to draw the women who are going to like you through a baby.
Correct. DJ asks Uncle Jesse if the food is too spicy for him, and he says, no, why? And she says, because you're sweating bullets.
I love how DJ just understands exactly what's happening. She's just sitting back watching it like it's Jerry Springer. She's just like, this is great. She's like, you're sweating. You okay?
We are in Jesse's room, and Robin and Danny are working on her audition piece. Jesse walks in because he wants to talk to Robin, but Robin doesn't want Danny to leave, so he's continuously being forced to be a part of this conversation. Robin says that there is no reason that he should feel guilty about having a date, and Jesse agrees, and as do I.
Yeah, we just met.
Y'all did just meet.
Literally.
But she does break their date because she feels as though she realizes what kind of guy Jesse is. And that kind of guy always gets her into trouble. And Jesse is just in disbelief. He says no. Even Danny has to be like, she's breaking the date. Like, take no for an answer. Jesus. And then Jesse takes offense to this. And I go back and forth with this whole kind of thing, because what about what it is that he did? Like, because then she lists off all the things, the motorcycle, the leather, the girl chasing or whatever. Are those really contrary to any of the things that you thought he was when you initially started talking to him? Like, you're not mad because of his type. You're mad because you saw him with another woman.
I mean, okay. So on one hand, I don't know how she even knew he had a bike, to be completely honest. Since they met at the studio and then he left before she did because she had her interview. So I don't know. Plus, on top of that, he had baby Michelle, so I'm guessing he came in his bugmobile and not the bike. I don't even know how she knew about that at that point. My guess is this is just stuff that she gathered up as she was in the house and watching. I think the biggest thing was just the girl, and that's just because I think most people don't like feeling like an option. They want to feel like, oh, you're dating me, then you're only dating me type of thing. Or at very least, I don't have to meet the other people that you're dating before you go on a date and then decide to stay home for the date instead type of thing. I think it's mainly just the situation she was put in that then made it awkward. It would be different if, they did go out to eat, in which case she didn't really have to sit there with the girl or whatever. And then they came back, maybe they would still have the date. I couldn't really tell you, but at least from my perspective, I think it was just being in that weird situation where you had to meet the girl who's talking about how they're, not only supposed to go on a date, but then you met in the same way and he used the exact same tricks on you that he used on me, because It's basically like a formula at this point. It's something that he can work out and he knows it's going to work almost every time, at least on the girls that he wants to target. That in itself feels weird.
I don't know. I feel like these are all very surface level judgy things to like pass on someone. There's like real reason to feel wary of Jesse, and it's everything to do with how they met. But in any case, Robin reads him. He says, "Lucky guess." And Jesse tries to convince her that he's also the romantic type and the compassionate type and the attracted to her type. Danny wants, and they're getting super close to each other, and Danny wants to know if anyone realizes that he's still in the room. And Robin still won't let him go. Robin asks if he's ever been in a relationship for more than 3 months. He says yes, there was this one woman who he was in a relationship for 4 months, and then Danny lets it slip that he was that she was in Europe for 2 of those beautiful months, and then finally Jesse kicks him out. And Danny says that he's going to go settle that Iran-Iraq squabble.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And then Robin just owns up and she says that she's afraid of getting hurt again. And Jesse says that the fact that their fire and ice could be the exciting part, and that when you put fire and ice together that you actually get steam. But what she says is a puzzle, and she kicks him out of his own room, and the whole family was out in the hallway listening to this because they were not done checking out their stories. Yeah, this whole kind of scene just bugs me. Like I totally understand where she's coming from, but I feel like she's just putting a lot of this on him.
I said it before, and I'll probably say this across the entire podcast. Realistically, the writers are not. Their strength is it's not writing romance or visible chemistry on screen. Like that's something that they can build with time. But the writers who were writing, especially this episode here, they it felt very like rom-commy, but it felt rom-commy in that moment in like the end of the second act when like you're gonna find out something happened that's gonna break them up, and then they're gonna realize how much they love each other, and then they're gonna come back together. But we didn't get any of that build up, so it's just two people who met earlier that day trying to talk each other into dating each other in a sense. I don't know. The whole thing was just very weird because it didn't feel like any of the chemistry was real. It didn't feel like there was any buildup. It didn't feel like there was any romance or really any feelings other than lust, realistically. If I feel like if they would have been more, especially with this one, because I think they tried really hard to give it this very specific like plot line, right? Where we get to see, I guess, this different side of Jesse, or maybe somebody was just like, oh, well, what if we have Jesse, with two girls in a room, and then they just kind of built it around that. Is kind of what it feels like, because the romance portion of this, or the I guess chasing of love or chasing of romance portion of this, which was basically the entire episode, just wasn't done well because they didn't focus in on exactly what they wanted to tell. They focused in on small moments that they wanted to make sure were there, and then built outside of that.
Yeah, it seems a little backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
DJ asks if he really likes her, and Jesse admits that he does. Sure, why not? And he says that it's the
why? Why? Just tell me why. Give me one reason why you like her that isn't I like her hair and her eyes.
Seriously. And then he says that it's the worst breakup in his whole life, and he hasn't even been out with her yet. The drama.
Yeah, no, it's just there's a lot of things about this episode I don't like, and this scene itself was one of them, because I can't stand people who say they like somebody, but then they don't have a reason other than something that they physically see. Just say, I'm interested in this person. I feel like I could really like them because I'm also very attracted to them. And so far, they feel like it seems like they have a good personality. It's not that I like them. I don't know that yet because I don't know them yet. But I feel like there's a chance I could really like her. That would make sense. If he said, you know what, I feel like there's a chance I could really like her. That would feel more like he's chasing the hope of something bigger than what he's already been getting. But because he's like, yeah, I really like her. Why? Give me 3 solid reasons that aren't physical. Just throw them at me. Give me 3.
So the next morning, Jesse is making French toast, and he's trying to play it cool. But Joey announces that you can't fool your roomie. And Danny suggests slowing down and trying to be friends first. But Jesse says that friends is what you're forced to become after the breakup. In the next scene, the girls are with Robin in their room, helping her with her hair and makeup, and DJ's doing her nails, and it's kind of cute. They're really, it does seem like it's a sweet moment, not necessarily because of Robin, but because the girls are latching onto an adult woman in the house.
You know what? I don't even think that's necessarily what it was either. Like, I'm sure for them it was like nice to have her there and whatnot, just having another female in the house because they are surrounded by dudes. But you can definitely tell it was because of, Jesse saying that he really liked her the night before, so they're trying to put in a good word for him. But I don't know if it was just me or not, but Robin didn't seem like she wanted to be there. She seemed very annoyed at the fact that like DJ wanted to do anything. She's like, "Yeah, you can do my nails, just try to get above the cuticle." And then Stephanie, she's like, "Oh, can I do something on your body too?" That just felt like a really weird sentence altogether. And then she's like, "Yeah, you can brush my hair, I guess. Like, if you don't want to be here, don't be in here. Like, you're just Danny's friend. You're not dating somebody yet. Matter of fact, you just called off a date a second ago. If you want to go, you can just go. You don't have to be here." Why
I
it felt very forced, and maybe it was meant to be that way because at least the way that her actress portrayed the character, it seemed like she did not want to be there, and she was just putting up with it because she was staying at Danny's house.
I think that it could possibly be that the individual, like the actor, could feel uncomfortable around children because it just really did feel like there was a disconnect with
Mm-hmm.
the actual adult and the children. Um, but it could have been that, or it's just like a. There are some people who are just kind of like that. You either are just so naturally comfortable and cool with children, or there is just this gap, and you can feel that gap. Which is why, for me, I focused more on what the girls were doing than what she was doing, and I even said not even necessarily because of Robin, but yeah, like she. So I definitely agree. It could just be that it's interesting that she wouldn't have more enthusiasm being around the
Mm-hmm.
girls given where the episode goes, and some of the reasoning she gives later. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's definitely a weird moment. And so the girls are wingmanning him. They're really trying to put in a good word for him. And Jesse walks in to get the girls ready for school. And Stephanie, while trying to get her milk money, slams her finger in the drawer. Jesse comes to the rescue because he went to finger college. And he asks her to close her eyes and put her finger on the nose and asks what color the paint is. She gives her colors and she sees polka dots but no stripes, which is good because stripes would have been dangerous. Jesse then says that the next step to curing her pain is taking the finger off the nose, and the pain is gone. And she adorably is delighted that she is no longer in pain. And Stephanie says that he's wasting time killing bugs. And Robin is sitting in for the whole thing. Is this or is this not one of the cutest moments in television history?
I thought this was really cute. And I think that just based on the difference in, because I feel like we get a lot of like family scenes, right? Or scenes that are meant to be kind of like, "Oh, that's so cute," or "That's so sweet," type of thing. And sometimes they really hit and sometimes they don't. And ones like this, the ones that really hit, you can feel come from one of the writer's personal experience, whether it's something that they've done for a child or they saw done for a child or was done for them when they were a kid. But this felt like something that somebody actually went through and then wrote down based on like their memory, and not necessarily somebody with kids at home or at the writer's table like, "Oh, this is what I would do." Instead, it was like, "Well, this is what, my mom used to do, or this is what my uncle did, or this is what I do for my kids now," type of thing. But it was definitely something that somebody pulled from memory or something that they've witnessed themselves because it felt very real.
I totally hear that, and I love that you said that because there is something very special and pure about the moment that makes it feel like it is definitely real. And it just kind of reminds me, plug in quickly, the pilot of Modern Family, that whole
Mm-hmm.
situation where the brother accidentally shoots his sister with the BB gun, and the rule was
Yeah.
if you shoot anybody with it, I get to shoot you with it. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it was the producer or creator or whoever, but somebody, I was at one of their fan table reads. It was super cool. And he had said that that was his arrangement with his son. And one day his son accidentally shot somebody, so he got to shoot his son. And, you know, they say that one of the oldest rules is write what you know and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
there is something, I think you might be onto something there. I could totally see this being like a real thing that somebody either saw happen or have had happen, because it's so special and it's so cool, you know?
Yeah, it's very unique. It's not something that you think of off the top of the dome and then just write in if you haven't personally experienced something exactly like that or something similar to it.
Right. Yeah. And they both did just such a great job with
Yeah,
it. So sweet. These are the full house moments that go down in history.
man.
Um So Michelle, we then go to Michelle and Danny back on air. She was requested by popular demand to have her own segment on the news channel, which I just thought was so cool. I was like, that is something that would happen. And I
Oh
love
yeah.
that. I feel bad. I can't quite recall what the situation was, but apparently like people were betting on her predictions and stuff like that. So they wanted her to kind of, like,
Yeah,
sports people
yeah,
get
it
very
was
superstitious.
she said that I think it was like the Clippers or something would win uh 5 points would win with 5 points, and they won like 101 to 106. So her prediction was exact, which is why people were like, "Oh, bring her back. She's my good luck charm." At this
Yep.
point, so many people won money. I'm sure so many people won some money that night. They went and bet on it.
It's just so great. I that
I
was
thought
a
it was
good, that was a,
funny.
yeah, it was a good little, again, more Michelle Danny moments, which are always great. But
Mm-hmm.
Danny says that she is retiring and returning to learning to talk and burping, which is great. His baby is not an on-camera baby, not yet. Or I mean, that baby most certainly was, but Michelle, the theoretical force, was not. Um, so and yeah, Danny's just, I know I said this earlier, but I literally have a note that says, why is Danny a vibe in this episode? Like he just
He is. Danny is a vibe in any episode where they allow him to really have like his moments. Even even when they're small. Even like small moments with Danny. I love when he's on screen. I find him to just be so hilarious and so delightful. He's just like the sweetest person on that screen. Just period.
yeah. He just naturally brings a smile.
Yeah.
So Jesse comes to pick up the baby from Danny, and during this, Jesse sees Robin rehearse and says that her rehearsal is putting him to sleep. He suggests that she loosen up and have more fun with it, and does a ridiculous read to kind of, loosen her up. Jesse then takes Michelle, and Robin does her audition. And then at the back at the house, it is revealed that she got the job, and they make a joke about how it was probably because she auditioned right after his terrible one. But I don't know. I liked what he did. And, like, I thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, I guess congrats to Robin.
She said, I guess congrats.
A
Oh
character
shit.
that came in same episode. We've been on your journey for getting this job. We don't even know where you're from, because that's the whole thing, is like she's coming in from out of town. Why are you out
The
of
only
town?
thing they said was which, and I maybe we'll get some background lore to this or not, but Danny said that they met at his first uh, news station.
Oh, so
So
that
when
could have been
yeah,
anywhere.
so when he first started working, they met at his very first news station. That's how they first met. I guess she was like an intern or something, is I think what he said. But my question would be, because I mean, as far as we know and as far as we can tell, everybody's always been in San. I think it's San Francisco, right? San
Yes.
Fran is where, yeah. So it seems like everybody's been in San Fran. Seems like, well, maybe not. Okay, because there are moments where it makes sense, and then there's moments where it doesn't. Kind of like we were talking about before with a couple episodes ago, where we were talking about how the house layout sometimes makes sense and sometimes doesn't. So the parent thing and the locations sometimes make sense and sometimes don't, because I know that there was one episode where, mama had to Danny's mom had to like fly in, and then there was another episode where I think she drove in, which doesn't make much sense. So I'm trying to figure out, like, did Danny grow up in like Los Angeles? Did he grow up out of state? Because my guess is his parents are living wherever he grew up at, and that could be where they knew each other from. And if you met each other just, I guess, as work friends and you haven't been in contact since, why is she staying at your house? That just feels a little weird. But those are like intrusive thoughts.
She says that he has strong maternal instincts, and Jesse's like, oh, the words I've been dying to hear from a woman. And Robin says that the girls really love him and that she sees why. And Jesse says that he's not the type to just jump into relationships, which is false, but that's what he says. Mm-hmm. And he says that he wants to be friends first, and they shake on it. So first, I want to touch on the whole his strong maternal instincts thing. I just want to put like a little bit of a PSA to any, not just the ladies, you know what, I'm sure, it's anybody who looks at somebody with strong maternal instincts, whether or not because they have a little sister or a little nephew or a daughter or whatever, that is not actually a reflection on how they're going to treat someone in a relationship.
Okay, so the way I took it, right, and the way I always take it when I hear this kind of stuff is kind of like they are looking for somebody who seems like they would be a good parent and not necessarily a good partner. When you look for somebody who has a strong maternal or paternal instinct, period, you're looking for somebody who has the ability of taking care of something that comes from them, or someone that's depending on them. You're looking to see if they have the ability of, empathizing and taking care of children or animals, not necessarily how they would treat you in a relationship. I feel like if you're looking for that, you're going to find almost no examples of that realistically, unless you go in and you talk to an ex or something like that, or unless you talk to a sibling or a friend or something like that. You're never going to really know how they're going to treat you until you get into it. Because on top of that, as you go through relationships, the way you treat people changes depending on how that relationship was, how it ended, and if you learned anything from it or not.
So Jesse says that, all right, they're going to be friends, but if she decides to go beyond, that she's going to be the one to have to make the first move, which I think is a fair boundary to set because she is the one who's saying no. And he can't help himself, so he asks, if you were going to make a move, what would that move be? And then she says, oh, you'll know. And they have a hug, and he asks, was that a move? And she was like, did your toes curl? And he says no. Or no, he says yes.
Yeah, he said yes.
He says yes. And then she's like, well, when I make a move, everything curls. And he says, have mercy. And that's the end of our show. So,
okay.
Do you want him to be into you or not? Like, what do you want? What, now that his guard's down, you're going to be like, I'm done. Like,
oh my gosh. It's funny because when she said that, I had this visual, and I cannot remember what film it was from, but there was like this film, and there was this moment where I think like all of the air or something was leaving someone's like body or something like that. I can't really remember what it was, but it was almost like they were deflating. Think of like the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, when she gets crushed by that by the house, and her whole legs just curl all the way up like little curly cues. That's kind of what I pictured in my head when she said that. I'm like, why would you want to do that to a person?
Okay, facts. It never really put a fun image in my mind either. And I was like, maybe that's something I'll get when I'm an adult. Still, like, okay.
Like, I feel like most of the things that involve that sexual attraction or fulfilling that sexual attraction, all those things, all the parts of you that are involved, you don't want to curl.
You kind of want them to do anything but curl. I guess
exactly.
If you're like...
Exactly. If you can curl it, are you doing your job?
I guess if your toes curl... No, I'm not getting into the reason. But no, I hear what you're
But
saying.
like,
It
but like
wasn't.
everything though, because she
Yeah,
asked
yeah, yeah,
specifically,
yeah.
"Did your toes curl?" That makes sense, right? But when she says your everything curls, I just picture that moment when the Wicked Witch got crushed by the house and her legs just
Mm-hmm.
curled all the way up. Like I'm just like, why? Why? We already referenced the toes, so what else could possibly curl that you want to curl in that moment?
I feel like there was another like cool thing that she could have said. Like, I don't know. She could have said, did you feel a shiver down your spine? Yeah. Okay, well, when I make a move, you'll get a shiver throughout your whole body, or so. I don't know. Like, I just, it's fine.
No,
I mean,
yeah, it's just that was again. I'm going to say it again. I feel like we had a writer's room full of men, and they were doing their absolute best with writing Robin.
all right. Well, that wraps things up. Do we have a not in my house moment?
Yeah. Don't ever let some random lady blow on my baby's belly. What the hell?
Yeah. And Danny pretty much said that. He was just like, hold up, you
Yeah,
using my baby to use
it's
these?
weird. It's weird.
Yeah. I'm just gonna have to agree with you there. Maybe the way that Jill was roaming around the house, but I do think that you were right. There is a little bit of an establishment of her being familiar with the family, and she's just kind of one of the people who roams there.
Mm-hmm.
So sure. Um, do we have a get the violins moment?
Do we?
Maybe it was the finger thing.
Was that a really good
What
like a
is it? A get the yeah. I don't know if there were any like heartfelt moments, but for the purposes of this category, some of the things that we also talk about is like if there was a message or something that we can learn from the episode. And maybe that would just be how to not try to date somebody.
I feel like this is gonna be a harder one to grasp onto, actually.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking through the whole thing. Oof. Yeah, I
You know what?
don't really. You know what? So I'm trying to picture like violins in the background of any scene, and the only
There
scene I
were
could
not.
picture, the only scene I could picture it being behind would not be a really a get the violins moment. It would just fit because of how hilarious it is, and that's really just when Jesse comes out because his date with Robin was canceled, or rather called off. That little
Oh,
violins moment as he comes out and he leans against the door and everybody's just out there staring at him. That's about the only thing I could give you. But again, we talked about how I feel about that. I think jumping to that, I like her when we met less than 24 hours ago and we haven't even had a full conversation that didn't involve a baby just makes no sense to me.
yeah. No, I agree. I don't know. For me, the lesson though, if that's how we're rolling, don't underestimate Joey.
That part, that part,
Don't underestimate
that
Joey.
part. Look, I'm going to continue to point it out, but I promise you, especially after this episode, you're going to start looking at Joey just a little bit different. Just start paying more
Mm-hmm.
attention to what he does in the way that he like smiles around certain things. Just if you pay a little closer attention, you will see exactly what I see. Joey is messy, but it's beautiful.
He's a organized mess.
Man.
As am I. Yeah, I know exactly where like things are under. Um, so full stop. I think that my full stop is definitely the somewhat intimate moment that Jesse and Robin were having right in front of Michelle's face. That will be my full stop
See?
moment.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to say that it would actually be the conversation that Jesse and Robin had while forcing Danny to stay there.
Yeah. The whole forcing him to stay there part, but then also
Man,
just everything that they were saying to each other. You are both making just no sense.
it's
You are
like,
imposing so much on each other. You're judging. You're not taking no for an answer. I
mm-hmm.
don't like either one of you two right now.
Yeah.
And a dad like Danny. What parental practices did Danny put into place this episode?
You know what? I'm going to go with just him choosing to make zero conversation at the dinner table and letting Jesse kind of sit in his mess.
Yeah, no, I do love that because I think he also did that to kind of like him allowing this to play out, he was also allowing his children to see it. But I think it's a great way to just show that actions have consequences. Communication
Exactly.
is important. You will and can be, you can and will be humiliated
Mhm.
if the universe allows it to be so. So just don't treat people like this, you know?
Exactly.
And I honestly, yeah. I honestly like, I mean, Danny's always doing something great, but I do love that. I love the moments he had with Michelle. But if we're talking about parental practices, it would have to be that moment.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Man, we like this might be our longest episode so far. And
Honestly,
if
I feel like they're gonna start getting longer, especially since we're getting more comfortable. I feel like we're also getting more out of these episodes as well. It feels like they're trying to put more in these episodes, but at the same time, there's moments where it fails and there's moments where, it really succeeds. I feel like this episode was a prime example of that because there's certain moments like the finger doctor moment that was just really, really sweet and just priceless. And then there were other moments like like Robin and Jesse meeting for the first time, or even just Jill roaming around the house, because that, like you said, felt a little weird, and without context, it is a little weird. So it's just like there are things that work and things that don't. And when we hit episodes like this, we're gonna have a lot to say because we have kind of an equal amount of both.
yeah, and I agree. I think that they're giving us a lot more to work with, so we're going to have a lot more to talk about. And I just appreciate anybody who has stayed with us up until this episode, up until the end of this episode.
Man,
And I'm just having a lot of fun with this. I'm doing this because I just want to hang out with my sister and talk about my favorite show. So just anybody who's actually like hanging out with us doing this, just know that I appreciate the H out of it.
we both appreciate the H out of it completely. It's always fun. And it's even more fun knowing that there's anybody listening to us. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, all the things, and stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, this is Dax.
And M reminding you
to not fall in love so fast.
Right.
Take it easy. Slow down. Be friends first. Take Danny's advice.
Always take Danny's advice.
Always. Well, maybe not always, but we'll get to those episodes. All right,
up
y'all.
to this point.